And, of course, today is Veterans Day, and we offer up our thanks to all of our veterans here in Florida and across the country. Thank you to all of you for your service to this country. And I want to shout out a couple of different organizations that I've had on various shows in recent years that I think do tremendous work. And I think a really good way to show your appreciation on Veterans Day isn't just to post an image on social media or something like that, but to really go above and beyond and support these organizations who are actively helping our veterans. There's the Dixon Center for Military and Veterans Services, Disabled American Veterans. They do really, really great work. Home Base is another one. America's Warrior Partnership. I've had them on so many times, and they really do a lot of work taking care of our veterans. Wounded Warrior Project, I think just about everybody has heard of that one. And the Gary Sinise Foundation. Gary Sinise, of all the celebrities involved in helping veterans, he just stands out as one who goes, talk about above and beyond. He is incredible. So a couple of organizations there for you to think about looking up and supporting. And then, of course, earlier in the show, we had the executive director of Task Force Dagger, Matt Parrish, on with us. He's former Green Beret, and the work that Task Force Dagger does is to help our special operations veterans across the country. And I'm telling you, I know Matt well. We've had him on many times. He works tirelessly to help those who have done so much, often in the shadows, for our country. So taskforcedagger.org is where you can learn more about that organization. Right now, let's get to today's top stories. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. Governor DeSantis announcing a formal investigation into accusations of targeted discrimination by federal relief workers over an instruction from a FEMA official that relief workers ignored homes with Trump signs while providing disaster relief in the state. The FEMA administrator, Deanne Criswell, revealed an employee was telling workers during Hurricane Milton not to bother with homes that had signs or flags supporting Trump. So DeSantis is ordering Florida's Division of Emergency Management to investigate the activity of the agency during the critical time in the state's emergency hurricane relief efforts. He says it's a weaponization of government by partisan activists.
There's no question that FEMA worker and the team underneath her, they
followed those orders.
They were playing politics.
With people's lives, you know, in the aftermath of a devastating storm, it really is horrifying.
When I first saw this story, the Daily Wire, they're the ones who broke it. And just like you, Dana, I was a little skeptical because you can't wrap your head around would somebody really do that?
Happened, yeah.
Yeah. But then as we learned more, it was confirmed. The FEMA administrator came out, noted that the employee had been fired. There's a lot that I think we still need to learn. When was the employee fired? Do we know that, Chris? I don't think I've seen that.
Right. Was the person fired right away as soon as they found out about this and, found out that it was true that this really happened? Or was the person fired just now when it went public?
Right. When the Daily Wire broke it. So, I obviously want to know about that. A lot of this was in writing.
It was text messages. Yeah, it was right there in a text. These are the rules for when you go to homes, and one of them was avoid, homes with Trump signs.
Yeah, the employees who were apparently following orders from the one FEMA worker who directed them not to go to Trump homes, they noted that the reason they didn't go to those homes was because of Trump signs. Was that them making a record of that to kind of cover their asses, or were they, willingly going along with those orders? They had to have known that wasn't right, I would think.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I always wonder when, one person makes a really bad decision and other people just go along with it. Nobody questioned it. I mean, we don't know that, but it's really strange that so many people followed those orders.
So, again, I think there are still a lot of unanswered questions. This is a legit scandal. It's outrageous that this happened here in Florida in the aftermath of Hurricane Milton, when that community had been devastated by a tornado. Now, we noted, and Chris, you pointed this out in the last hour, those people who lived in that community who were skipped over because of their Trump signs, they were still able to get, at least we think, they were still able to get FEMA assistance. You could still apply for it, but the whole point of these FEMA officials going out into these communities is to make it as easy as possible on these people who had potentially lost everything.
And to help evaluate just how bad the damage is and what they would qualify for. Keep in mind, these are not emergency responders. These are not people who go out and rescue people during the hurricane or in the aftermath. These are the people who come out and they represent the federal government who provide aid to people with hurricane damage. So people can apply for that whether or not FEMA shows up in your neighborhood. But the thing here is that they were in, areas that had, major problems, and the idea is that they're making it easier, or at least as easy as possible, for people to get federal aid. And in this case, they were ignoring homes that had Trump signs.
Yeah, and a couple of points. First of all, those Trump signs, apparently they withstood, the storm and all of that. So impressive there that they were still standing. Second of all, if you don't like Trump, and this is before the election, and you're this FEMA worker, wouldn't you want to show the community that the Biden-Harris administration was on top of it and helping you to try to win them over as opposed to ignoring the homes?
Wanted to make it political, this would have been an opportunity for them to win some people over instead of ignoring them.
Yeah, but President Trump is very vocal about his complaints about FEMA. And, to suggest that there aren't people within that agency concerned about what he was saying about them, there were those accusations in North Carolina from Trump that FEMA was like shifting money away from Trump supporters or Trump neighborhoods to illegal immigrants and all that. That creates a resentment amongst people who believe that sort of thing. So I'm not saying that this was an excuse for those workers and what they were doing, but it's definitely something that FEMA workers are thinking about.
Well, I'd like to know more about what this person in particular and the ones under her were thinking.
Right. Well, and also when you do something like that, you're helping to perpetuate what may or may not have been like a false accusation. Then when you go and blatantly say we're going to discriminate against Trump supporters, you're making it worse.
Yeah, outrageous. All right, what else we got going on this morning,
So
Chris?
President-elect Trump and President Biden will meet on Wednesday at the Oval Office.
To be a fly on the wall for that meeting.
It keeps with Biden's promise of a peaceful transition of power. The presidential transition period is vital for the incoming administration. It helps build its team, and they vet employees for the future administration. Now, interestingly enough, President Trump refused this meeting back in 2020 when Biden won the presidential election because Trump was essentially denying the results.
Right. He still is.
Still is, yeah.
Still is.
That's
but
true.
At least things are going smoother this time around.
Is he going to call him Sleepy Joe to his face?
I don't think so. Typically, when you see Trump in these kinds of meetings, everything's very cordial.
Right,
It's not
he's
anything
nice
like
to your face.
Yeah, what it's like on the
but
campaign
once Biden's
trail.
on the helicopter, it'll be a free-for-all.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the Tampa Bay Bucks game went down to the wire once again, and another loss for the Bucks, who dropped to 4-6 on the season after losing their fourth game in a row. So the field goal kicker for the San Francisco 49ers had already missed 3 field goals.
He was having a rough day at the office.
And it came down to the wire here. This is as the final seconds of the game were expiring. He kicks the winning field goal to beat the Bucks 23-20 at Raymond James Stadium. And it was a rough day for the quarterback, Baker Mayfield. He only had 116 yards with 1 touchdown, as the defense for the 49ers kept him in check and a lot of the other Bucs players as well. But you know what? The Bucs had chances to win this game. The 49ers kept blowing it, quite honestly.
Yep. Another close game. The Bucs against a good team. They hadn't been great lately, but they got some players back. The 49ers. They're still one of the better teams in the NFC, I think. And that was one the Bucs could have won, but they fell short. I was rooting for the Bucs, obviously. I did feel good for the kicker, though. I mean, to miss 3 and then, he makes the final one, and like the other 3 don't matter at that point. You know what I mean? Like once you make the game-winning kick. But the Bucs are going to have a much easier stretch after the bye week. Hopefully they can go on a run, although I still think the playoffs going to be a stretch for them. As for the Dolphins, they play tonight against the Rams, who have been playing pretty well. This is not going to be an easy game for the Dolphins. And there was a note that I found on X. If the Dolphins win tonight, they'll be 1 game out of an AFC playoff spot in the loss column. If they lose tonight, they'll be in position for the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft.
Wow.
So a big difference depending on the outcome tonight. And then really, the worst news in South Florida, Miami Hurricanes blew it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, had an undefeated season going, had a real
Heisman
shot.
Trophy candidate.
At a national championship. They're still not completely out of it. I still think they got a good chance to making the playoffs. But man, that was a brutal, brutal loss to drop them. I think they're down to 10th in the rankings now. So yeah, that was a rough one for Miami, and then
all the other schools too.
And all the other schools, yeah. Florida's a disaster. University of South Florida, not great. Florida State is a mess. So rough college football weekend for the state of Florida. All right, Chris Trankman with today's top stories. Chris, thanks so much.
Thank you.